Welcome to the Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. Today, we're talking about specific training and how that can drastically improve your jiu-jitsu. Here's what you're going to learn in today's episode. How letting your partner heel hook you might actually be an excellent idea. Why just rolling could be holding your jiu-jitsu back. What our top drills are for specific training and why getting tapped out is actually a good thing. See you on the episode. Hey bro, so you saw on the weekend I got to visit Garage Jiu Jitsu in Wollongong.
Indeed, I saw you down there getting it in.
Which, you know, for the listeners, you've trained down there quite a bit.
I've trained down there a fair bit.
It's in Wollongong, which is like an hour and 15 minutes south of us here in Sydney.
Beautiful spot.
And I'm kind of fortunate. My parents live down that way, as you know. But I don't get to go to Garage as much as I'd like anyway. It's a tricky one, right? And this, you probably find this too. There's I know 4 gyms down there. Yes. And I'm friendly with all of them.
All of them.
And whenever you post, other ones are like, yo, well, you should have come through, man.
Why didn't you come visit?
Like, oh, yeah. But it was sick anyway. I made it down on Saturday, went and spent a couple of days at my parents' place. And I jumped in on their comp prep class.
Nice. Good class.
Bro, I was like, oh, comp prep, as you guys know, Joey doesn't consider himself a competitor, though he is competitive. But so I was like, yeah, go on, that sounds fun. It was an hour, and then there was an open mat straight after, and I was like, oh, that'll be nice. I'll do the first one, maybe do the second one. You know, probably have a bit of gas left in the tank. Definitely didn't have any gas left in the tank. But it was 1 hour, all business.
Yes.
It's like, all right, super quick warm up here, boom, 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 running, cool move. Yeah, okay, now we're going to start with scrimmage wrestling. All right, so stand up rounds, go 1 for 1, take them down. They got to defend a little bit, but let you get it. But don't let them up real easy. Keep the pressure on them. You got to get back up under the, I was like, cool. Okay, 4 minutes. Yep, good. Next partner, good. 4 minutes. And then I was like, now we're doing, and it was just one thing to the next, right?
Continuous.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of time for chilling. There was, so here's the thing. And obviously for the experienced grapplers listening, you're like, yeah, you probably know the drill. But this is more for those that maybe haven't had that style of training yet. Mm-hmm. There's very little time for technique breakdown.
Yes.
It's not, hey guys, let's learn this technique today. It's let's put the techniques we know into practice.
It's a doing less than a learning.
Yeah.
Execution.
And, you know, it's very similar to, say, some of the stuff that we've been doing over the years, but I would think that it seems it's more I think what the modern no-gi game is with a lot of the specific stuff. And I just came away from it thinking it's such a good addition to your training because it brings things out of you and puts you into situations that you just wouldn't normally get into.
It brings the spotlight or the magnifying glass over certain elements of the game. And you may not have been able to focus on that before in the context of a broader class. But for sure, I know that of the Saturday, shout out Ryan Walsh.
Lovely guy, yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Garage crew. But yeah, man, it is definitely a thing that it makes you go, oh, hang on a second, maybe I'm not as good at this one part of a thing as I thought. Because maybe...
They're like, use your favorite, single leg X defense. And you're like, I don't got one. I just smash.
but no, it's true. I have definitely found it really... Maybe you've only got one version of a single leg. Right? You've got this one go, you're like, oh, I can usually get this in a roll or whatever it is. But then if you hit it once against a partner and they're like, okay, now do it again or do a different version, and they know how to counter that, you're like, oh, dang, I might be out of options here.
Yeah.
And it forces you to reappraise that thing you thought you know. And that forces you into different situations.
I wanted to ask you, when you were training in Brazil those years ago, did you do a lot of that specific training then?
Yeah, definitely. It would depend on the session. They would have some specific training which was more constraints based, is more limited. It's simple. It's as simple as person on top must X, person on bottom must Y.
Yeah.
Or it would be more first points, or it would from a position. Or simply, someone starts on the single leg, you must take them down somehow, and the other person just has to not get taken down.
Don't get taken down.
And that is actually so much harder than it sounds. Like, as much as the big fight in the stand-up battle could be getting to the legs, starting there and them knowing that they actually don't have to count. All they have to do is not let you do what you want.
Yeah, stop you.
They're not actually trying to take you down. They don't have to submit you. They've just got to make your life freaking hard.
Yeah.
Is some of the most exhausting drills of all time.
Bro, Adam did that with us a lot. I think it was it 10 seconds on or 20 seconds on? But it's like starting in a guard.
Right.
Or no, not even starting in a guard. One person on their back, like open guard scenario. You have to pass.
Is this blitz training?
You got to blitz them. There's 15 seconds to go or some shit. And all they've got to do is just not let you pass.
Yes.
And it's like
all you got to do
the
is
15 seconds feels like a lifetime.
The intensity is so high.
Yeah. And then it's like 5-second changeover. Again. Okay, next partner.
It's like hill sprints. That's where it is literally as high in like intent and intensity as you can have. And as long as both partners understand the assignment, just a couple minutes of that can be enough to just cook you.
Yeah.
I actually think the most specific training I did was with Lockie and the guys prepping for the 2019 ADCC. That was when we spent the most time on specific like heel hook attacks, specific guard retention, specific takedown stuff. And we worked the hell out of that. That's when it really cemented in my mind that you can become so good at defending from a position that even if someone gets you in a heel hook and they've even got like your heel, you can still get out because you just know your knee and you know your position so well. And I think, I'm speaking pretty broadly here, but the best people, you see them super calm even when they're attacked because they just know.
Yeah.
They know they can get out of there because they spent so much time defending there. Or they're so calm when they don't get the attack the first time because they spent so much time attacking there.
Yeah.
And I think...
And they know they're going to get back there again because they have a system.
Yeah. And specific training gives that to you in a really condensed, nice way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you find the session doing that? It's kind of tiring, right? Like it's
super, super fatiguing, man.
Yeah.
And like the session went like that.
Yeah.
Really, because you're just active the whole time. And it's very mentally engaging, right? Because what did we do? We did like scrimmage wrestling for a couple of rounds. And then we did like close guard. So cool, you're in close guard, you got to get out. Get out close guard, person on the bottom, you got to sweep, submit. And then we did maybe half guard, and then we did back attack, like someone's on you, so just like positional rounds, starting in, you're either defending or you're in a dominant position. But not a lot of each, maybe 2 or 3 rounds of each, and it was, I think it's very mentally fatiguing because you start you'll get into the situation and you'll realize I have to have a plan here. Like I have to be strategic.
Oh yeah.
Right. Cause if you're on someone's back and the intention of the round is whoever has someone on their back, your job is to escape.
Yeah.
As soon as it's go, that person is like getting the out of there.
They're not chilling.
Yeah, and there's no fatigue factor for them.
No.
Right? So it's actually really hard to control the back in that scenario. So it forces you to really think about, like often for me, because I'm not a strong starter with that stuff, they'll get out first round. I'm like, all right, next one, I need to tighten my shit up, But then you're like, okay, seatbelt, start being a with the hooks.
Yeah.
How are we going to stop that? What am I holding on to? It forces you to think about things that I probably would never have to think about in rolling, because let's say that I got to the back on that person in a roll. It's probably a few minutes after we've started rolling.
Got a bit of time.
They're a bit tired. They're not thinking about their back escape. We're thinking about the whole roll. And then I get there. And this thing that we do in jiu-jitsu, right, which people do less now, but I think it was a thing much more in our time, was where you're like, oh, okay, you're on my back now. Let's play from there.
Right.
Whereas in a specific drill, it's like everyone is refusing to concede the position.
Sure.
And I think that's such a different intensity.
And I think it's also because you only have one job. I think this is why we've got to go, let's zoom in on why specific training is so valuable. it's because literally maybe the person attacking might have two jobs, like it might be more than one attack, or it might be a sweep and a submission, but the person defending has one job. And so it makes their job actually a lot easier, that they've just got to just do this one thing and do it as hard as they freaking can, which makes it intensely hard for the person who's trying to get something done.
Yeah.
So as a result, if you're not like dialed in and really locked onto exactly what you need to do to be successful, you won't be successful.
Yeah.
And this forces you to get better quickly. Otherwise, that's going to be a terrible round for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's the value. I think even though there's people who will make different statements for and against, what I've got from it is it's shown me how insufficient I can be at a thing, which I thought I knew pretty well. I'm like, I get that mount. You ain't never getting. Whoa.
Yeah. And someone's like 2 hands on the hips, bump, bump, bump. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, eh? Like I remember some dude who I was calling Keanu actually.
Okay.
Makani, actually, I think his name was. Shout out, good training partner, real handful.
He's got the hair. What's going on?
Yeah, I was like, bro, you got a bit of Keanu vibe about you. Like, stop it, bro. But long dude.
Yep.
You know, tall, long, and I think, had the mount, and he was just like hands on the hips and like, boom, get the fuck out of
I'll
here.
tell you who's the best of that, Jeremy Skinner, man.
Is he?
Bro, he's got that kipping, like,
Yeah.
you're like, surely
It's like a
he's
little
not,
jackhammer.
Sure, he's not going to get me off.
No.
God, fuck.
Yeah.
Hard to hold on to that guy.
Yeah, it's like I think there's a willful ignorance that you can have in your jiu-jitsu, right? When you go to class, when it's the typical format of you go to class, you do the technique, you practice that for a few rounds, there's a couple of other variations of it, and then we roll. There's just like, that's really good, and that definitely has a place. That's kind of the bulk of things. But there's an ignorance there to like, you might have an inkling of, I don't really have much of an idea from a certain position. But you can just avoid that position in
Shy
rolls.
away from it.
Yeah, or, whatever. Just make sure you don't end up there. Focus on something else. Maybe if you're super disciplined, and some people are, you'll tell your partner, hey, I want you to put me in this position,
Start there, yeah.
But like I know for myself, even when I'm a bit tired and shit, it's like I'm usually not making those decisions to make it harder for myself.
Yeah.
Whereas when you go to like when you're doing that specific work, there's no shying away. It's like, we're doing this thing. And if you suck here, like it's going to be exposed. And that's excellent because then you know.
You have to, yeah. And I think if we can really look at the traditional class structure, it gives room or license for mistakes. Whereas if you're like, no, the rule of this round is this, if you fail, you got to go again. And you fail, you got to go again. And it's like, God, am I just going to keep up for the next 5 minutes, or am I going to try and change my strategy, or am I going to adjust this? And just in that short concentrated period of time, you can have a breakthrough, which you might not have if you weren't put under that kind of specific pressure.
Yeah.
So let's maybe talk about some drills we like that work. I might go to mine first, which is when I find my game is sucking in general, like say I haven't been training enough and I get in, I get my ass kicked. I will always remember the thing that I lost on, or the thing I made a mistake on. And then when it comes time for some specific training, I will go there.
Right.
Basically bad position training. Like whenever I've tried to level up my jiu-jitsu as a whole, I always try to shore up my defenses. So I will either get the person to put me in a heel hook, or get the person to half sweep me like they're going to berimbolo me, or put me inside control, and then we just work from there.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I achieve whatever the outcome is, whether it's a counter or getting out of there, put me back. Just drill the hell out of me from there, and I'm very honest with my training partners. I'm like, f me up from there. Like just really go for it from there. Don't give me any chance, because I want to make sure that if, I have a number of training partners that I have an honest read on how good or bad I am from a position. So for me, that's how when I'm doing drills, that's usually what I like to work on.
That's a really good way to go about it. Would you do it? Would that be in the same session or not necessarily?
I usually like to use it as a warm up before rolling.
Right.
Because I feel like it really it dials in my defenses.
Yeah.
So spending like half an hour to 40 minutes on that, and then rolling from potentially that position or any other position after that.
Yeah, nice.
Do you find you get thirsty at training? I do. I do all the time. I'm a sweaty human and I need to hydrate. Now, the biggest problem is by the time you're thirsty, it's a little bit late. You need to hydrate. And that's why we got Sodi. Sodi is sponsoring the show. We've got all the colors of the rainbow. Great flavors here. We've got salty citrus, salty pineapple, salty berry, and my favorite, salty grapefruit. And they will be releasing 2 new mystery flavors soon. So why do we need this? It's going to prevent our muscle cramps. It's going to help our energy delivery. And it's also going to mean you're less tired, which is an advantage when you're training. If you want to maximize your jiu-jitsu and feel good when you're rolling, you need to get Sodi. And when you purchase, enter the code Bulletproof20 at checkout for 20% off. Oh yeah.
How about yourself? Is there any particular drills that you like to go with for specific training?
Man, I really liked, I like the scrimmaging, scrimmage wrestling, which I think, I looked it up. It has different sort of definitions depending on
How do you define
who
it?
and where. Yeah, it's basically stand-up fighting. So both people looking for a takedown. And then once you get a takedown, you are continuing to apply pressure on them, but you're not engaging in a ground game.
Right, you're not trying to submit them.
No,
It's
you're just kind of making it hard for them to get up, but letting them get up so that you can resume the stand-up battle.
Okay.
And so it gives that like as you know, like when you're switching between being on the bottom and getting up constantly, you just fatigue like a mother.
Yeah.
And it's also like I don't know, something about it. You're not going 1,000% with the rest. You're looking to put things together, right? Maybe that was also how it's guided. I mean, Ryan was like, don't, try chaining shit together. Don't just be going one dimensional on the same thing. Yeah. So it's the coach is encouraging you to kind of stay a bit exploratory with it.
But your work rate's still, it's quite high.
Super high.
Yeah.
Super high.
I think it's probably more fatiguing in the sense that, like, I know the kind of training you were doing. I've done it before with those guys. That it allows you to keep the work rate, because you're not going 95%, you're going more like 75%. Your total work volume is higher.
Yeah, you can go for 4 minutes.
Yeah, and then you get to the end of it, you're like, oh my God, what did we just do?
You're in the corner doing the big Hicks and Gracie.
Can't even drink your water. Oh, bro, it's incredibly tough. Do you have any other positions you like to work specifics?
I guess what I've really been enjoying lately is working from back control.
Yep.
Or having someone on my back.
Right.
I've been enjoying that, and that's just really because I've been trying to get better at both of those positions lately. And so, yeah, we did some that day, but also just I was doing that for maybe 8 weeks or so at Balmain before I injured my knee, where I was just every roll, I was getting someone to, like, every time we restarted, I was like, hop on my back, seatbelt, and just fucking do your best to finish me. Yeah. And I would same thing you tell me, like, go for it, bro.
Yeah, don't hold back.
Yeah.
Do it.
That was great.
Kill me.
I mean, here's actually, I know we're talking drills, but one of the other benefits is, and I think this is important for someone when you've been in the game for a while, where you don't get tapped a lot, right? When you're one of the more kind of high level people on the mat, you just don't get tapped as much.
Yeah.
And that has a real curse in my mind, because then you get used to thinking of like, I can't get tapped. Like, I need to not get tapped.
Right.
Right? Because I'm one of the good guys.
You get less familiar with the taste.
Yeah.
The bitter taste.
But you
of
also,
submission.
you're also, you can't, I mean, what's the word? Like, it starts to become something that defines you, where you're like, I got to not get tapped, right?
VHTS, very hard to submit.
Yeah, where it's almost like it's an ego thing at that point.
Of course, yeah.
Whereas when you do specific work, right? Say you're doing specific stuff, and it might be like, start with a locked up rear naked choke. It's like, motherfucker, you're probably going to have to tap about 5 times over the next 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it actually deconditions you.
Yeah.
It makes you okay with that. And I think that's really important. And I would say it's important for kind of newer folks too, because sometimes you do think, I just got to not get tapped here.
Yeah. There's too much pride associated with the I don't get tapped thing.
Yeah.
Because even like Bernardo Faria, voted as the most underrated. Reddit voted him as the most underrated jiu-jitsu competitor of all time.
Right.
I saw him get tapped a lot in training, and he competed better than so many other guys who you could never tap in training, but surely got on the day, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that we have this weird, it's almost like a cognitive fallacy. It was like a joke that we think, well, if I can't get tapped in training, I won't get tapped in comp. Well, it's like, well, actually getting tapped is not the problem. Like not getting tapped is probably means you're missing learnings, you know, like by not finding those errors.
Well, I think training for most of us is the comp.
Yes.
You know?
For sure.
And you see, right, you see it with the competitors where they're like, no, I'm going to get tapped in training so that, you know.
Yeah.
What else you like?
Well, a caveat I wanted to put on this. Well, so the one drill that helped me a lot with leg locks, which I was very skeptical of, because I said this to Lockie, and it was at this time when Craig was actually training at Absolute. So I did actually do this drill with Craig, and I did learn some stuff here. You start in a locked in inside heel hook. Right. Like they've got you in not ashy, but like either saddle or like a 50-50 type scenario. And they literally have the bite on your heel.
Yeah.
Shake hands, go. They're trying to heel hook you and you're trying to get out. Now, this was like just after kind of the warm-up drilling. I'm like, Lockie, you're a physiotherapist. Is this a good idea? Are we about to explode our ACLs? He was like, no, just tap. And I was like, oh, surely this just... My initial fear around the drill wasn't warranted because obviously your partner's training with control as well, but you really learn where you're safe and where you're not.
Yeah.
Like you feel when they got you and there's just no escape. So you just tap. But then also you feel if they're not quite there and you're like, oh, I can point my toe. Oh, I can slip my heel. And you do actually get much better defensive proprioception.
Yeah.
You do know if this person has got you dead to rights or not.
You build awareness in that acute moment.
And it's so fine, right? But really, if you hadn't spent time with someone just hanging out on your leg, which is hard to do in a hard roll because they talk about fear tapping, but you don't want your ACLs to rupture, so you might tap a bit soon. Whereas in this scenario, you don't. And actually, I had asked Craig specific questions about knee position relevant to the hip, and he said, "Nah, man, you want to flare your knee here and pull their leg through more because he's like, it's the knee line. You got to have the knee line." And this is after he'd tapped me multiple times from that position, and he's like, "The mistake you were making was you were trying to like squeeze you were like trying to control my leg by squeezing your knees." And he's like, "Actually, you wanted to open your knee so you were able to keep my hip away and keep my knee in."
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, that's counterintuitive. But if we hadn't spent a whole 10 minutes, me 5 minutes attacking him, defending, and vice versa, I never would have learned that shit. So that my confidence around my heel hook defense improved dramatically from just really understanding the finer points of that position. But my little caveat on that is the ramping up. And this is what I wanted to say. This is what I got from Lachlan. I don't know where he got it. He might have talked about it in an interview. We would do one round of a specific drill at 30% pace. And Margot Ciccarelli had talked about this as well. So I don't know if this is something they did at Unity, but then the next round is at 50% pace.
50% pace?
Yeah,
like intensity.
Intensity, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so then you do a third round, same partner, same specific drill at 70%.
Right. Yep.
And so now it's feeling like, okay, we both know what's going on here. And then it's like, okay, now roll from there.
Right.
I think this is a great way to build safety and awareness into the drill while also learning.
Yeah.
And it also appeals to me being the gym bro that I am because I feel like, we have a light set, a couple of warm-up sets, and now we're going for it.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart way to do it. And I mean, so I'm thinking about like for a beginner who might be hearing this, being like, hearing you talk about like starting in an inside heel hook, right?
Yeah.
If you happen to know what that is. But it sounds fucking gnarly. It sounds like
it's kind of scary.
You mean someone starting on it and they're just going to rip that shit? No, that's not what happens, because while like defensively the light for you is being shone on what do I need to do right now to take the submission away from them, For the person who's applying the submission, the light is being shone on their control.
Yes.
And so it's not about ripping the heel, because they might be able to rip it, but
No.
that's not going to be a system that they can fall back on.
No.
Whereas when they start to understand the elements of the control, flaring the knees, what's your hip positioning, how much leg do I have fed through, all of that stuff, the heel hook itself comes easily.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes both grapplers way more intentional and respectful of the scenario.
Yeah, and might I say, there was never any major knee injuries from that camp. The 2 years that we trained from like 2017 to 2019, no major knee injuries from all this leg lock and stuff, which is pretty fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
So I think that we can say that, like, it's obviously there's a lot of high level people there, but that said, it is so good to be able to take time to focus on your deficiencies and even just refine something you might think you're good at, and maybe then find out maybe you're not as good as you thought. And man, I think one of the major reasons I got better was because I spent a lot of time doing specific training, as well as, rolling hard and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely for me one of those things that I'm like, need to do more of that. Can't guarantee that I will. If it's on in class, I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of folks out there, probably specific training makes up a percentage of your class.
Yeah.
But if you've got...
Which is great.
Which is awesome, which I think most good coaches will do, depending on what they're trying to get through. There's a lot for a good coach to juggle. But ultimately, you also have the time and the energy. If you go to an open mat, you could say to a friend or a number of friends, hey, let's warm up with specific training and put that structure there. And sometimes what I will do with my rolls, if I'm sucking at something, I'll say, all right, Joey, start on my back, man. All right, man, start on that armbar. No, I would never, ever say that. But yeah, you can start to bring that idea of specific training to your free rolling and in that way get to work on it.
Last question I would ask is, what's the recommendation, say, for total beginners? Should they be putting much time into this?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think if you're struggling with anything, whether it's an attack or a defense or whatever it might be, you do have to spend a bit more time there. And unless you kind of artificially create it, you can't guarantee you're going to get it in a roll. So by either doing a private lesson with your coach, or having your BJJ mate and just going, mate, can we just work on this? I just want to work on this. I think that's the best place to start. And generally what I'd say is just start by doing 2 rounds. So 5 minutes of me working on it, attacking or defending, and vice versa for the partner, and then do another one of those. And use that as your warm-up before you start rolling. I think that's a very easy kind of gateway into doing it. And then you can gradually build that up as a bigger part of your training as you learn more.
Yeah, sick one. Hey guys, if you dig the episode, please make sure you subscribe to this thing. Give us a 5-star review if you're listening on an audio platform. And the one thing you can do that really helps the show is to just share the episode with a friend. It helps to grow the thing, and we appreciate it a lot. Cheers.
Appreciate y'all.